ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायामुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमो पंकजनाभाय नमो पंकजमालिने नमो पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांग्रे। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरु दीनतारिणम्। परमानंद माधवं श्रीचैतन्यम् ईश्वरम्। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। Welcome all of you to our morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. We will discuss from the first canto, 5th chapter, text number 23 onwards. In the last session, whenever we had in the past, the Bhagavatam first canto, we discussed up to the point where Narad Muni has instructed Srila Vyasadeva that he should now glorify Krishna uninterruptedly, unadulterated, pure Krishna Katha. And Narad Muni has told Vyasadeva that please write Srimad Bhagavatam because Krishna Katha is very powerful. It can transform people's lives. It can bring about a revolution. This is what Narad Muni has told Vyasadeva. The Guru has instructed the disciple. But we see that if you want to make any point emphatic, you have to give examples, right? That's how this world works. If you want to be convinced of something and if you hear an example, then you are impressed. And even in examples, it is explained that if a person gives his own personal example, then that has a greater impact on the audience. And Narad Muni is the best teacher, he is the best guru. So he is instructing his disciple Srila Vyasadeva that, my dear disciple, please glorify Krishna without hesitation. And do you know how powerful Krishna Katha is? I will tell you my own story. Then you will understand the impact of Krishna Katha. So I wanted to glorify Krishna, and to convince you the importance of glorifying Krishna and the process of Bhakti Yoga, I will give you my own example. And that example is here from the first canto, 5th chapter, text number 23 onwards. We are going to now hear Narad Muni's own journey in Krishna consciousness. And when we hear his journey, we will get faith. to also practice Krishna consciousness with determination. Because Narad Muni is saying that his life was transformed. When we see his background, when we see what he did and how he got results, we will be inspired to also follow the same process. And just like Narad Muni had a certain situation and he practiced Krishna consciousness, we can also practice Krishna consciousness. So now he is going to give, so now the same situation will happen in our lives. But in the 21st century, there will be some unique tweaks. So how we can apply the same principles in 21st century, which Narad Muni followed when he was in his past life. So we could do the same thing. So we'll discuss now Narad Muni's life story, his journey in Krishna consciousness. And that will be interesting. So I hope all of you are ready to hear Narad Muni's journey in Krishna consciousness. So text number 23. So Narad Muni is telling Vyasadeva, Aham purati tabave bhavam mune dasyastu kasyapchana vedavadina nirupito balaka eva yogina Shushrushane pravrishinirvivikshatam. O Muni, in the last millennium, I was born as the son of a certain maidservant engaged in the service of Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service. So this is the introduction to Narad Muni's past life. He says, he was born to a maidservant and she was serving devotees. And he was assisting his mother in her service to devotees of Krishna. And during the Chaturmas, the 4 months, the rainy season, he got an opportunity to serve these devotees. This is Narad Muni's past life. So look at this contrast. He was a son of a maid servant. So technically, he was unqualified during those days for somebody to study Vedanta because he would have no education, no opportunity. But he gets a chance to serve pure devotees of Krishna. And because of that, he becomes a Narada Muni. He becomes the greatest Vaishnava. So the moral of the story is your birth is not a criteria. Your birth is not a qualification. You could be anyone. You could have any birth. But if we get the right association, then you also can become a pure devotee. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, such is the powerful action of devotional service that simply by engaging in the Lord's service, even a son of a maid servant also became a wonderful pure devotee of Krishna. Now, we have to understand there are 3 energies. The spiritual energy, which is completely spiritual, and Krishna is completely spirit, pure spirit. And then there is the material energy, which is illusion, where things are temporary, things give misery. But the living entity is called as a marginal energy. He is in between the spiritual and the material energy. Just like, the river bank. It is not completely wet like the river, but at the same time, it is not dry like the land. It is on the bank. Similarly, a living entity, Jiva, you and me, the living entity, the souls, we are like a bank of a river. We are neither completely spiritual or we are not material because we are pure spirit soul. We are part of the Lord's superior energy. But because we have a tendency to be associating with matter, we get influenced by the material energy and we adopt the qualities of the inferior lower nature. But the moment we engage in devotional service, we connect with the superior energy. And therefore, we become also spiritual. We also become Krishna conscious. But Krishna consciousness has no obstacle. No birth criteria can prevent a person from becoming a pure devotee of Krishna. And the only criteria needed is connection with devotees and engaging in service. Then what happened? Narad Muni is now explaining the story in greater detail. The text number 24, he says, Te maya peta kilacha palerbake dante drita kridan ke nuvartini chakru kripamyadyapi tulya darshana shushru shamane munayolpabhashini. Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I was self controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty and I did not speak more than required. So, first is Narada, as a son of a maidservant, although technically caste wise unqualified, but because he assisted his mother in service to great devotees of Krishna, he got blessings. And the qualities of Narada also are described, that although he was a young boy, children are generally addicted or inclined to perform frivolous activities. But he was Alpabhashini. He did not speak more than required. He was not naughty. He didn't engage in mundane sports. So he also had a desire to practice Krishna consciousness. And by assisting his mother, then he developed wonderful devotional qualities. Now, what happened? Srila Prabhupada writes a very beautiful purport. In the last sentence, it says, without being self-controlled, without being disciplined, and without being fully obedient, no one can become successful in following the instructions of the spiritual master. And without doing so, no one is able to go back to God. So therefore, Narada actually followed discipline. He controlled his senses and he was obedient to these Bhaktivedantis, and he learned the science of devotional service from them. And he also rendered service. As a result of all this combination, the Krishna consciousness was growing in his heart. So we wonder, sometimes we say, Prabhu, I'm from a terrible background, I have done so many bad things, fine. But now we can begin devotional service by hearing Krishna Katha, which Narada heard from the Bhaktivedantis, by serving devotees of Krishna, and by assisting those who are serving Krishna's devotees. And what else did Narada do? Something which we all love to do. Narada did. He took prasad, the food that was taken by the Bhaktivedantis. Narada, the young boy, the son of a maidservant, he got their Mahaprasad, the food that they had eaten. Uchishtalepan anumodito dvijay sakratsma punjay tadapasta kilvishay evam pravrittasya vishuddha chetasas tadharma evatma ruchi prajayate. Tadharma evatma ruchi. So he developed ruchi, he developed taste because he got the remnants of their food by their permission. And by doing so, all his sins were eradicated. Thus being engaged, I became purified in heart. And at that time, the very nature of transcendentalist became attractive to me. So here Narada is glorifying the power of prasad. See, the few things that we have learned so far in the 3 verses is, first of all, Narada, although son of a maidservant, he assisted his mother who served the pure devotees of Krishna. Secondly, he got a chance to directly serve them under his mother's instruction and guidance. And thirdly, he was hearing from them and got their blessings, and he was not mischievous or naughty. He was also sense-controlled and disciplined. And now it is revealed, he also got their prasad, Mahaprasad. See, what Krishna eats is prasad. And when devotees take Krishna's prasad and then they give what they have eaten, their remnants to us, that becomes Mahaprasad. And if a devotee who has taken Krishna's prasad and another devotee takes that, that devotee has got Mahaprasad. And if we are lucky and if we get that devotee's Mahaprasad, then that prasad becomes Mahaprasad. So here Narada is revealing the glory of Mahaprasad. In Krishna consciousness, one of the things that attracts us in the initial days is prasadam. This is not ordinary food, okay? In fact, before coming to ISKCON, the idea of prasad was some bundi. When you go to any Hindu temple, you get prasad, means some little bundi you get, sweet. or some sugar candy. That is prasad. But when I came to ISKCON, the first ISKCON prasadam I tasted, I still remember doklas and gulab jamuns. I was shocked. I said, this is prasad? It was a proper dinner in our colony where I was growing up. We had a swimming pool, and in that swimming pool, there was dinner served to everyone. I was shocked. But this is prasad? They were insisting that you please take prasad and go. And I was wondering, there is no prasad here. They said, please go to the swimming pool. And when I went there, I saw a huge dinner counter. And then I was hooked to prasadam. And if devotees take this prasad and then we get their remnants, then we also get the disease that they have. If you take food from the plate of a person who is infected by tuberculosis, there is a good chance that you will be infected by that disease because the germs will be carried to you. So when a devotee takes prasad and the devotee is infected with a very beautiful disease, a very desirable disease, that is love of Krishna. He has got lavaria. He has got not malaria, but he loves Krishna. So when a devotee takes Krishna prasad, who loves Krishna, and then from that devotee's remnant we get, then there is a good chance that the germs of love of Krishna, which has infected that devotee, will also infect us. So the devotees are always encouraged to take prasad, and especially Mahaprasad of advanced devotees. And that is purifying. And Narada is glorifying that prasad. He says, that helped me. Srila Prabhupada, when he started the Krishna consciousness movement, Srila Prabhupada said, ours is a kitchen religion because we serve excellent prasad. When Srila Prabhupada introduced prasad in the West, in New York in 1966, the young boys and girls who came, the hippies, they were astounded to see the cuisine, the taste, the aroma, the spices that Srila Prabhupada put. Srila Prabhupada made samosas, kachoris, gulab jamuns. Srila Prabhupada called gulab jamuns as ISKCON bullets. Because you would keep a big jar of gulab jamuns at the entrance of the center, the Matchless Gift Center, where he would conduct discourses and where young boys would stay as devotees. And if somebody was bewildered and by Maya and he wanted to leave Krishna consciousness, he would want to leave, and then he would see this jar of gulab jamun, and he would pick up one and he would eat. And as that gulab jamun dropped, that succulent, tasty, soft gulab jamun entered the tongue of the young boy, and he would taste that, his mind would change. He would say, no, I'll continue to practice Krishna consciousness. And therefore Srila Prabhupada said, anyone can take as many gulab jamuns as they want. And he called them as ISKCON bullets, because these bullets will destroy the attacks of Maya. Of course, when you are young and you have an appetite, you can eat all of this. But as you get older, then we have to honor Krishna prasad, and we should not discriminate. When we are young, we want gulab jamuns. But ISKCON is very famous for prasadam. Srila Prabhupada, in ISKCON temple, when I came new, the khichdi prasad was so attractive. It was more attractive to me than, paneer makhanwala that we got outside, because this is cooked by devotees. And when devotees cook, that prasadam carries that potency. And if children, now Narada was a young boy, and if you have a young child at home, and if you feed the child prasadam, I don't want to embarrass some names here. I know some devotees in our Borivali congregation also, who were fed prasadam by their mothers from childhood, and today they are wonderful devotees. Getting prasadam of Krishna for devotees, for children, their consciousness becomes wonderful. There is a saying, Jaisa Ann, Vaisa Man, So our mind gets influenced. Like I was in Udupi last year for 8 months, and the temple was closed because of the Chinese virus pandemic. And I had to make a lot of, and my mother was unwell and I didn't have time to cook, and the kitchen, there was a problem a lot of things are there. So I had to eat food sometimes. I would eat fruits many times, but sometimes I had to eat grains that was not cooked by devotees. Although it was, without onion, garlic, etc. It was very painful because, and when I compare the simple moong dal, simple non-spicy sabzi cooked in the temple for Sikh devotees, when I take that, and when I compare that with what I experienced when I was not in the association of devotees, I feel so grateful for this prasadam. There is nothing compared to prasad. Prasad is so tasty because Krishna, the Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that when Krishna tastes the food that we offer him, Krishna's saliva touches that food. That's why it's called prasad. Krishna's lips have touched that food. And when we are taking food that has been touched by Krishna. That's why it will have a different effect in our heart. So when devotees cook bhoga and then they offer it to Krishna and they tell Krishna, Krishna, please accept this. And Krishna, by his glance, he can eat. Krishna's senses are transcendental. By he can use his hands to eat. He can use his eyes to walk. All his senses are transcendental. They're not like our senses. So when Krishna glances upon those offerings that we give him, and then it becomes prasad, and then when devotees take prasad, they feel a different effect. I mean, I know devotees, when we used to do college programs and we used to carry khichdi, and these boys had access to all kinds of food in all kinds of restaurants, but they would be hankering for this khichdi prasad. And sometimes when we would go for the program and the khichdi was not made, it was late and we had to go without khichdi, and the boys would look at us, a little disappointed that you have come without that big can of khichdi prasadam. And then we would say, no, the khichdi is coming a little later. I have come. Then they would say, okay, we are relieved. You can now give class because we are assured that after the class there would be khichdi prasad. And the khichdi would remain. And I know I myself was guilty of this. When I was not a devotee, when I was coming to the program from college, I would get my dabba and I would innocently ask, oh, khichdi is remaining, huh? It will get waste. So I'll take some of it. Actually, I would be planning for that. I would wash my dabba in office, in college, wherever I was working then. And then I would clean it up and I would get my dabba fresh, clean. So that if prasadam khichdi remains, I could take some of it. And then I would take that khichdi, fill my dabba, take it to home, put it in the refrigerator, and morning for breakfast, I would take it out and we would heat it up. And all of us family would eat that khichdi prasadam. And my mom and dad, they were all amazed by this khichdi prasad. So Krishna consciousness is so wonderful that even simple khichdi can be so tasty because Krishna tastes it. And not just, it's not simply that you buy food from outside and then you offer it to Krishna and then you eat it. No. When devotees cook and then they offer it to Krishna, that has double effect. Of course, anything you offer to Krishna is good, but when a devotee cooks in a proper consciousness that I want to please Krishna, I want to help devotees, basically the right attitude when we cook, that also has an effect. You ask children, they go to hostel, they enjoy their life there, they eat all kinds of food, but they are hankering for mother's food, mother's khana. So in the holidays, they are really hankering, they come back home. So mother's touch influences the child. Similarly, a devotee's cooking influences our consciousness. And there is a true story of one sadhu. He went to one place for food, prasadam. One lady, she was a very poor lady, but she was very pious. And she begged this sadhu and she told him that, please, you are a saintly person. Please come to our small, humble house. Please take some prasad. I have this desire to serve you. So just to oblige her, he went with the disciple. And they took prasadam. And he noticed that she had made an opulent chappan bhog items. And he was surprised because this lady's hut was quite modest and she looked quite poor and financially deprived. So the sadhu, a thought came across his mind, how is she prepared such an opulent feast? But he didn't ask her anything. He just quietly honored all the items she cooked. And then they left. And as they were leaving, the disciple, just as a reflex action, picked up 2 serving spoons and put it in his cloth bag. He actually stole it. He put it in his cloth bag and they left. And when they went some journey ahead, the disciple said, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, I did a blunder." The Guru said, "What happened?" "I don't know. I'm a devotee. I'm sincere. I don't know what happened. I just picked up these 2 serving spoons and I kind of stole them. I put it in my bag and I just realized now that we are walking 10 minutes after we have left our house. I don't know why I stole it." The Guru smiled. He said, I know why you stole it. Come." And the disciple followed the Guru and both of them retraced their steps and went back to the lady's hut. And as she was winding up the entire day's prasadam program that had happened, she was surprised to see the sadhu with his disciple. She said, "Oh, you have come back. I'm honored. Is there anything I can do for you?" The sadhu said, "You have to answer my question truthfully. You prepared such an opulent feast, but I know that you are not rich. How did you get money to cook this feast for us. So the lady, with all humility and folded palms, she said, "My dear great saint, please forgive me. I really wanted to please you and cook a wonderful feast for you, but I didn't have the money. So I stole some money from a rich landlord's place. And from that money, I brought the ingredients and I cooked this feast." And the Guru turned to his disciple, and the disciple immediately removed those serving spoons and he gave it to the lady and said, "I had taken this from your house and I've come to return it." And then they walked away. And the Guru told his disciple, "This is what happens. Her consciousness influenced you because she cooked with the money that was taken from a rich landlord's house and she had stolen it. So her consciousness of a thief and of stealing entered your consciousness through the food that she served." So this is the power of prasadam. So imagine if we cook, you cook for your family members with sincerity that they should become devotees. Or Krishna, please take this, and then your prasadam I want to give to my family, to my friends. Then that has a dramatic effect. I know people from Islamic countries who have made their parents and their siblings devotees by offering them prasadam. I know one person, a friend of mine, who would cook bhoga and offer it to the Lord, and he couldn't even keep an altar at home. So he would come to the gate of his house and offer it to the gate where he had met Jagannath and Baldev. And he told his neighbors and everyone there that this is not God, this is just simply fashion from India. And they all thought it is some fashion. They didn't know that it is actually offering food to the deities. And that food, when his mother ate, she became a devotee. Sister also became a devotee. So prasadam has a lot of power. And what to speak of prasadam? And then when that prasadam is honored by pure devotees, that like a double effect. That is, Krishna has tasted it, and a pure devotee of Krishna who carries Krishna in his heart has tasted it. And then when we are lucky to get that, our lives become auspicious. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu encouraged devotees to take prasadam. Bhakta pada dhuli, bhakta pada jal, bhakta bhokta avashesh, ye teen mahabal. Chaitanya Charitamrita explains teen mahabal in bhakti. There are three most powerful things which can help us in devotional service. What are these teen mahabal? Bhakta pada dhuli, the dust from the lotus feet of a devotee. Bhakta pada jal, the water that has washed the lotus feet of a devotee. Bhakta bhokta avashesh, the food that the devotee has eaten, the remnants of that devotee. Bhakta pada dhuli, bhakta pada jal, bhakta bhokta avashesh, ye teen mahabal. These three have lot of power. So if you want to advance in devotional service, we need to be looking for an opportunity to get prasad of a devotee, to get their dust. Actually, this is not a ritual. This is not a technical thing. It's not that, okay, Prabhu, I want your dust. And you grab that dust and inconvenience the devotee. I know one incident where two devotees, in their desperation to get the dust from each other, that devotee actually fell from a height and he fractured his leg. So it is not that you grab the Guru's feet and you take the dust and you scrap it and cause him great embarrassment and inconvenience. What it actually means is taking the devotee's dust, and what it actually means is to take his instructions, his guidance seriously. That is the essence. Of course, prasadam is literal, but devotees, Srila Prabhupada says that even if the devotee is not given permission, you can take his remnants. This is amazing, isn't it? Even without permission, the devotee is looking somewhere else and he has eaten the prasadam and he's kept the plate and he has gone, and you can quietly go and take that Mahaprasad. That is allowed. That kind of stealing of Mahaprasad from a devotee who carries Krishna in his heart is allowed. The Gaur Leela, there is a beautiful story of Kalidas. Kalidas was a Brahmana and he was a great devotee of Krishna. But he was so humble, he would always hanker for association of devotees. And he would take their Mahaprasad. He was known as a great Mahaprasad thief. He would, after devotees have eaten prasadam, like, when devotees would all take prasadam, and then their leaf plates, the patthal, they would throw, and then he would go there and collect all those patthal and he would take he would take the remnants of those devotees because he wanted love of Krishna, which they carried in their heart. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nothing remains unknown to him. He knows everything. So he knew that this Kalidas is very sincere. He loves devotees. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a rule that when devotees paid obeisances, nobody would dare to touch his feet. But Kalidas was special. When he saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he not only offered obeisances, he put his head on Lord Chaitanya's feet and took the dust from his feet and put it on his head, and he kept his head firmly placed on Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet. And devotees rushed to grab Kalidas because nobody was allowed to do that. But when he put his head on the lotus feet of the Lord and the devotees are about to grab Kalidas, Lord Chaitanya stopped them. He said, stop. He is allowed to put his head on my feet because he really values the dust. He really values the prasadam of the devotees. In fact, there was one devotee in Bengal, Jadu Thakur. Jadu Thakur was a cobbler. Now, during those days, Bengal was a very caste-conscious society. And cobbler was a lower caste. And Jadu Thakur was a cobbler and he was a lower caste. He stayed in a small area with a small facility. And Kalidas knew that Jadu Thakur was a great devotee of Krishna. So Jadu Thakur became desperate for prasadam of Jadu Thakur. So he came to Jadu Thakur and said, please give me a prasad. And Jadu Thakur said, no, Kalidas, Prabhu, you are a Brahmana. I am a lower caste cobbler. It is not good for you to take food in my house. We are low caste people. And Jadu Thakur, Kalidas said, no, my dear Prabhu, you are an advanced Vaishnava. If I can get remnants from your plate, what you have eaten, then my life will be purified. I will get love of Krishna. Jadu Thakur refused. So Kalidas said, okay, no problem. He removed his bag and his bag had a lot of mangoes. He told Jadu Thakur, please take all these mangoes. Please offer it to your deity of Krishna and please eat this prasad. This is the only request I have. So Jadu Thakur said, okay, to please Kalidas, I will eat this prasadam. So Jadu Thakur took the mangoes. He offered it to the Lord on the altar. And then he ate the mango. His wife ate the mango. And after eating all of that, and as they were eating, after offering them, Kalidas left, but he did not go home. He went outside and hid behind the bushes. He knew that they are now going to eat the mango. He waited. And after Jadu Thakur and his family ate the mangoes, then they took everything and then they threw the skin and some of the peels, and which was all eaten. And then they put it on a pattal and they threw it there. Outside the house, they had a place where they would throw. And as soon as they threw it there and they left, Kalidas went and he took all of that and he tasted it. Because he wanted love of Krishna, which they carried in their heart. This was Kalidas, a very special devotee who knew we can't imitate, honestly, except my Guru Maharaj's remnants. I'm not able to take, somehow because of my own limitation and shortcoming. It's not that if a devotee is eaten from his plate and then, I'm not so comfortable even now. Although I know technically that, this will give me love of Krishna, but because of my upbringing and certain things, I'm not able to taste the remnants of the juta, as we say, from others' plates. And that's okay. But in principle, I know that it's my limitation. And in principle, I want the remnants. Like Guru Maharaj, my spiritual master's remnants, I'm able to take. And also some devotees, but not of every devotee. But Kalidas was not like that. Kalidas honored all Vaishnavas. And he took their remnants. So we can take inspiration from them and value Mahaprasad. So this is an amazing example. Narada is also a great example. As a child, he got Mahaprasad. But he did not simply honor Mahaprasad. It's not that he was only eating Mahaprasad morning, afternoon, and night. He was also doing something else. And what was that? He was also hearing Krishna Katha. Text number 26 reveals that. Tatranvaham Krishna Katha pragayatam anugrahena shrunavam manohara tashuddhayamen padam vishranvata priyashravas angamama bhavadruchi. Krishna Katha pragayatam. There was Krishna Katha going on constantly. These Bhaktivedantas would speak Krishna Katha. Anugrahena shrunavam manohara. And I would hear them attentively. So it's not that he was honoring Mahaprasad and sleeping. No, he was honoring Mahaprasad also. And he was hearing attentively Krishna Katha also. And that, what happened? Tashuddhayame nupadam vishranvata. Because he had this faith in hearing and tasting prasad, because of that service, his taste for hearing increased more, and Priya Shravas Angamama Bhavadruchi, and his taste for Krishna increased. Oh Vyasdev, in that association, and by the mercy of those great Vedantis, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna, and thus listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of God had increased at every step. This is what happened to Narada. He heard, he tasted prasad, and he had great faith. If we have this one quality, if you have faith in Mahaprasad, if you have faith in Krishna Katha, the process will work wonders. You know, if a person is deaf, and even if a bomb goes off nearby, he wouldn't hear anything. If you have ears, you can hear everything, right? If you don't have eyes, even if a beautiful object is put right in front of your eyes, you can't see anything. But if you have eyes, you can see. Similarly, faith is like the eyes or like the ears. Just like if you have ears, you can hear. Just like if you have eyes, you can see. Similarly, if you have faith, we can experience Krishna. If you don't have faith, then even if the most wonderful Krishna Prasad is given, and if you don't have faith, then even if the best devotee is given Krishna Katha, it will not have an effect. But if you have faith, which is like the eyes, we'll be able to experience Krishna. Faith is the main ingredient. And then when Narada got a taste, what happened is very interesting. So little taste he got, then his hearing became, till now he was hearing, but once he got a taste, then his hearing became unflinching. Tasmim sadalabda rucher mahamate priya shravas askalita matir mama yayahametat sadasat samayaya pashe my brahmani kalpitam pare. Oh great sage, as soon as I got a taste of the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings. For both the Lord and I are transcendental. And then the sages, they left. And what happened after they left? Because, basically he heard from them. And what happened after hearing from them regularly? Ittam sharat pravrishika vrito harer vishrinvato menu savam yashomalam Sankirtyamanam munibir mahatmabir bhakti pravrittatma rajastamopaha. Thus, during the 2 seasons, the rainy season and the autumn, I had the opportunity to hear these great soul sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of the Lord Hari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the modes of passion and ignorance vanished. So this is what happened to them, happened to Narada. And then he became more and more attached to the sages. And text number 29 reveals what happened to him. Tasevam menu raktasya prashritasya hate nisha shadadanasya balasya dantasya anucharasya cha. I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in my behavior and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses and I was strictly following them with body and mind. He got attached to them. And then because he got attached to them, he was hearing from them. He tasted their prasad. So they did something to Narada Muni, little Narada in the previous life when he was not Narada Muni. So now, after the 4 months of Chaturmas, they were leaving. So what did they do? Jnanam guyatamam yattat Sakshat Bhagavatoditam Anvavochan Gamishyanta Kripaya Deenavatsala. Anvavochan Gamishyanta, when they were leaving, Kripaya Deenavatsala, they were very merciful. They saw that I got attached to them. They saw that I'm tasting their prasadam. They saw that I'm hearing unflinchingly with great attention. So they were very merciful to me. So they gave me not simply knowledge, Jnanam Guyatamam Yattat. They revealed the most confidential knowledge to me, Sakshat Bhagavatoditam, which will give me Krishna. As they were leaving, those Bhakti Vedantas who are very kind to poor-hearted souls instructed me in that most confidential subject, which is instructed by the personality of Godhead himself. And then Narada could understand everything about Krishna consciousness. Things became very clear to Narada because he got the mercy of pure devotees of Krishna. So this is the text number 30 that we have discussed. So this is the power of devotional service. You see, Narada was a young boy, son of a maid servant, with not much facility for practicing devotional service. But because his mother got an opportunity to serve the devotees of Krishna, and he assisted his mother, and he heard from them, took their prasad, and served them. These three things he did: Seva, Shravan, and Swad, Prasad. He took prasadam, the remnants. So this had an impact in his consciousness. Actually, uh, this is very, very powerful because Krishna is very much interested in our devotional service. We don't understand, when we take prasadam or when we hear about Krishna, it's not some scientific formula that I practice and I get Krishna because I've done something, or let me do these three things, then I will get Krishna. No, the actual science here is that when we do all these things, Krishna becomes happy. And Krishna is more interested that we go back to him. And Krishna is racking his brains constantly. Krishna, you think Krishna is happy that we are suffering in this world? No. Krishna wants us to not suffer. I was reading the Prachetas prayers to Lord Vishnu. They offer a beautiful prayer. Namo Namah Klesha Vinashanaya Nirupitodara Guna Bahaya Mano Vacho Vega Puro Javaya Sarvaksha Marger Agatatmane Nama. The Prachetas say that, my dear Lord, we offer our respects to you because Namo Namah Klesha Vinashanaya. You are the Lord who destroys the klesha. That is what you love to do. Lord is happy to remove the sufferings in our lives. And this is, Prachetas are saying, this is not our assumption or this is not our speculation. This is not our imagination. Namo Namah Klesha Vinashanaya Nirupitodara. This is Nirupita. This is already conclusively established that Guna Vahaya, if we hear your holy names and if we chant your holy names and we hear your pastimes, you will remove the klesha from our life. You will remove the sufferings from our life if we hear and chant your holy names, the Prachetas are saying. Otherwise, if we try on our own to remove our problems, we can't, because see, we try to conquer Krishna, we can't. But if you are humble, Mano Vacho Vega Puro Javaya, they are saying, oh Lord, you are faster than the mind, our mind. And we can't glorify you enough. You are beyond any matter. Sarva Kshamargera Gatatvane Nama. If we engage all our senses, if we engage all our mind and analysis, still we cannot come anywhere near you. We can't do it. But if we take shelter of the process of hearing and chanting, like Narada did in his previous life, then you will remove the distress and sufferings in our life. Because as we will read the pastime later, Narada went through a lot of suffering, but he didn't feel it was suffering. His mother died. And suddenly this young 5-year-old boy is left with nobody else in his house, nobody else in his family, nobody else in his life. And still is able to take the right decision. He had that clarity of thought. So Lord is very much desirous when we take shelter of the process that he has given us. Namo Vishuddha Sattvaya Hare Hari Medase Vasudevaya Krishnaya Prabhave Sarva Satpatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam says that Lord is Namo Vishuddha Sattvaya. He is not Sattva. We are all told to be in Sattva Guna. Please be in the mode of goodness, right? That's what we are taught. But Lord is described as somebody who is Vishuddha Sattvaya. He is beyond goodness. He is pure goodness. And the best part about Krishna is Namo Vishuddha Sattvaya Hare Hari Medase. Hare means somebody who takes away all our suffering. But Krishna is very special because he doesn't simply take away our suffering. What he does is Namo Vishuddha Sattvaya Hare Hari Medase. Hari Medase means Medase means brain. Hari Medase means that Lord whose brain is constantly working on how to remove our distress and suffering. Krishna's brain is constantly working. Krishna is constantly, just like we are constantly thinking about our problems, just like we are constantly worrying, right? We are worriers. Lord is thinking, but not about his problem. He has no problem. Lord is thinking how to help the conditioned souls. And how does he do it? How does he do that? Namo Vishuddha Sattvaya Hare Hari Medase Vasudevaya Krishnaya. As the all-pervading Vasudeva is there in the heart as Paramatma. If we turn to him in the heart, he will reveal and he will remove the distress. Vasudevaya Krishna, and is also Krishna, son of Vasudeva. So if we turn to the personality Krishna, the deity form of Krishna, or the Lord in the heart, either way, the Lord will remove the distress. Prabhave, the last line says, Prabhave Sarva Sattvatam, and he will increase the influence of his devotees. He is the one who increases the influence of devotees who love him. So Krishna does two things, Hari Medase and Prabhave Sarva Sattvatam. Hari Medase means he's constantly thinking how to remove the distress in the lives of his devotees, and he's also thinking how to expand the influence of his devotees. And he does that by as Paramatma and as Krishna. See, as Paramatma, it's very simple. It's very easy to connect. See, if you have a deity form, you can look at the deity and pray to Krishna. Now, you may be in a crowded place. You may be in some situation where you may not have the deity form and you may not be able to meditate on Krishna's form. At that time, you can simply turn to the Lord in the heart and say Krishna, and you can offer that prayer. And that helps. I'll tell you a couple of instances when this has helped me. Like when I used to distribute books some years ago, it was very difficult. People would not take the books. Sometimes I would distribute 100 books. And sometimes no books would go. But I've seen that sometimes even with very less score, I would come back to temple very happy. And sometimes even when I did a lot of book distribution, I would not be so happy. And I realized why. Because when I did less books, I was intensely praying to Krishna. Like I would give a book to some person and he would be looking at the book. And then when he would be silent looking at the book, I would in my mind be telling, Krishna, you are there in his heart as Paramatma. Krishna, please let him take the book. Krishna, please let him take the book. Krishna, please. It's like appealing to the Paramatma who can influence the person. So then he would not take the book, or he would take the book. That is regardless. That is immaterial. But in the process, I had turned the Lord in the heart. I remember once I was wanting peace. I was like a lot of management, a lot of things. I was like disturbed. So I went to Hanging Garden. I was sitting in a bench. There is an ocean, Arabian Sea. You can see. And after that, you can see Bankadesh Stadium and all the buildings, Nariman Point. Then there is the ocean. And after the ocean, there is a huge, thick forest. And then on top of the Malabar Hill, the Hanging Garden, the Kamala Nehru Park, you can see this beautiful sight. And I was basking in the presence of this beautiful nature. And I was trying to be peaceful. And suddenly somebody came and started talking and asking questions and then taking selfie. And somebody else came. And I was like disturbed, I was like, I wanted peace, and why these people have come? And suddenly, Krishna gave me the intelligence. I changed the situation. So as the third person came, and he started talking to me, I was nodding my head, but in my mind, I was praying to the Paramatma. I said, Krishna, please let this person be peaceful. He's suffering. Krishna, please help him. So it was a silent prayer that I offered for him and also for myself. And I saw after that person left, I was very peaceful. Suddenly I became peaceful because my strategy changed, Instead of thinking that I am not comfortable, instead of thinking that somebody is causing me inconvenience, I began to turn to the Lord in the heart. So that's what Krishna is saying. That's what the Prachatas are saying. That Hare Hari Medase, the Lord is there as Vasudeva and Krishna. He is there in the heart as Paramatma. He is all pervading. If we simply turn to him, our distress will go. And when we turn to Krishna, the Bhagavatam says, Manas apartam vilasad dvayaya. When the mind is fixed on Krishna, then the material engagement, material pleasures born out of dualities of this material world appear tasteless and meaningless. So this is the power of devotional service. And this is what Krishna is inviting us to experience. And this is what Narada Muni experienced. He had no opportunity for devotional service, but he served the devotees. He took prasadam from their remnants, and he heard Krishna Katha from them. And then as a result of this, what happened to him, we will discuss in our next class. And in the next Bhagavatam class. We will continue from text number 31 onwards from the 5th chapter of the first canto. I sincerely thank you for attending today's Bhagavatam class. Thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.